Night falls over a quiet neighborhood, until chaos shatters the silence. A frantic 911 emergency call crackles. "I've been shot, he's bleeding, someone help." A crashed car. Blood in the streets. Victims scattered. And somewhere in the dark, a shooter still on the loose. As officers race against time, one question echoes louder than the sirens: who pulled the trigger, and why?
911, location emergency.
Two black men one got shot. He ran into my car. He was screaming, "I got shot, I got shot." And I saw another guy jump out of the car with him. I didn't know what was going on.
911, location of your emergency.
There's a man walking down Willoughby, and he's bleeding profusely.
Can you give me a description?
He's a white man with a brown coat on and blue jeans.
911, where's your emergency?
I'm shot. I got shot in the head.
Where are you?
I'm shot.
Where are you?
Middle Pond, I'm dead. I'm about to die. I'm shot in the head, please.
Where?
I'm dying.
Hello?
I'm shot.
Hello?
Okay, we also got one seeing black man with a hard jacket took off walking towards Willoughby. He was bleeding from the face.
On March 1st at about 5:25 p.m., we received multiple 911 calls from the Mill Pond Park area. Reports were saying that people were fleeing from the vehicle, possibly a shooting. We had no idea the number of victims that might have been at the scene. We also had no idea where the shooter was at that time. When I arrived on scene, I activated my body camera.
Shot and stabbed with these full blood.
My initial thoughts were that to find the car to start with, and then work away to people from there.
Black male ran that way.
What'd the perp look like?
He was a young. I think
Brown Carhartt jacket. How old?
like 23.
Hey,
First thing I saw was a white sedan that was crashed in the front of the residence.
who's still in the car?
And within that vehicle, I witnessed a subject that was slumped over, possibly shot in the head.
Can you hear me? What's your name?
He was breathing, but it wasn't direct breathing, so the breath wasn't great.
Hey, who shot you?
We try to ask people who shot you, who hurt you, because initially if they are going to pass away, they give us what's called a dying declaration.
Can you tell me who shot you?
Might be the only chance they have to tell us what happened.
Hey, just relax, okay? Lean back. He's not talking. I'm not sure if it's from getting shot or if he's just not wanting to talk.
At that point in time, we couldn't get any information from the victim. He couldn't tell us what happened, who had done it to him. We had no idea what happened at that point in time to help us solve the mystery of what occurred before we arrived.
So, line of travel, up to you.
You guys taking off? Yeah, you're good. Go ahead. Go.
They got the victim into the hospital in critical condition, with gunshot wounds to the head. We put tape around the area, and we secured everything for all the evidence. I've been a police officer for almost 17 years. My job is not to get emotional about what I see in front of me at that point in time. That's for later.
Just tie it right there.
Our job is to be there now, calm, cool, and collected, save as many people as we can, and figure out what happened. Once we have the crime scene completely secured, we return our attention back to the white sedan. Collected evidence from the inside the vehicle, including shell casings as well as DNA evidence.
Looks like a 380. I got one unspent and one spent.
There were spent rounds found inside the vehicle, so there was a possibility that the shooting actually occurred inside the vehicle, but no weapon was recovered at that time.
It did seem that the people within the car were specifically targeted, but why were they targeted? What is the motivating factor in this? What was the gain?
Next, we turned our attention to one of the 911 callers, the homeowner of the residence where the vehicle had wrecked.
Blood all over here.
Based on that one call, we knew that we had another victim or possibly an accused somewhere in the trailer park.
Let me talk to you real quick, okay?
Oh, he got blood on the door.
Yeah. Who came to the door?
I don't know where he went. I slammed my door in his face.
Okay.
That 911 caller tried to provide the best description she could at that time. The witness said that she did observe that subject running from the vehicle in a brown jacket.
This could be a homicide scene for us, so the better we can maintain all this evidence, the easier we can catch these guys, so.
Sir, I feel bad, but if there's don't let them in my house.
As best you can remember, the man that came to your door.
Just seeing I got shot. Oh, I got shot.
That 911 caller wasn't able to determine whether or not that person was the victim or the shooter. We needed to locate him as soon as possible.
If I have any more questions, I'll just knock on the door for you, okay?
Hero reset.
She got in the car and she took off back to her.
After we speak to the 911 callers, we do begin to canvass the area where an incident occurred. And that's when a witness had stepped forward and told us that a gentleman had ran towards a mobile home, possibly covered in blood.
That guy in there come between these two trailers, holding some up his head in blood. He said, I've been shot, help me. I don't know if he's the shooter or not, so.
Let's just get down here, please.
We responded to that mobile home, try to find either more victims or the possible shooter.
Where at? That blue stripe, this one right here?
Looking like this guy is a victim as well. How many minutes do we have confirmed?
Hello. Somebody hurt?
We have to always approach any situation with safety, because at that time, we're not going to know if that's a bad guy or a good guy.
All right. You guys know him?
No.
We got into the mobile home, and there was an unknown male on the floor holding a towel to the back of his head. He was not armed. So I began holding pressure to his head.
Is your neck hurting at all? No? Yeah. Just the back of your head, right? Okay. Nice deep breath.
The subject was able to tell me his name, Devon Hudson. Devon had told us that he was driving the vehicle.
I'll put in the car with you, bud. You were driving, you had somebody sit in the front seat. Yeah. You ran back. So 4 together, right? What were the names of the guys that were in the car with you? I know Hudson.
And he gave us the name of the victim they took to the hospital, Decoded Hudson Jr.
He was a beautiful soul. Growing up, he was so happy, full of joy, full of energy, always wanting to move and go somewhere, wanting to go see somebody or some family. My uncle and my aunt made sure they did everything they could to give him the best childhood. I got word that he was shot in the head. I received a phone call from my sister. She's just yelling and screaming, and I can't really understand what she's saying. And she's like, they shot him. Delano, they shot him. I said, but is he okay? Is he gonna live? And she's like, I don't know. And she's just bawling and crying. So I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed, and I asked God just to please spare his life.
All right, bud. Do you think with our help, I'm going to be here on your left side? He's going to be right there. We're going to get you right down to the bottom of the steps. All right?
When Devon had told me that there were 4 people inside the vehicle, at that point in time, I realized this wasn't just a random shooting. This was a targeted situation. When I put Devon into the ambulance, my first questions that ran through my mind when I thought everything was close to range and it was personal was who was inside the vehicle with them and who did they either make angry or have with them in the vehicle at the time this incident occurred. We had to move fast. We were going to get ahead of it. We began to spread out and fan out throughout the area. We were attempting to find more evidence or possibly more victims, and we still had no idea who the shooter was or where we could possibly be at. A few blocks away from the mobile home park, we had located a gentleman that was wearing a brown Carhartt jacket that was slumped over, appeared to be staggering while he was walking. So we had to think about if this guy was the person that pulled the trigger or was he also running away for his life.
It's always a mystery to figure out what the motive of a crime is. So not having any idea what could have transpired between these people, this was a challenge we needed to accomplish.
At this point, we had 2 victims at the hospital, Devon and Decoded Hudson Jr., both in critical condition with gunshot wounds to the head. Then we had a 3rd man, someone on the road, possible victim or possible suspect. We weren't sure yet.
You got any weapons on you, partner, or anything?
No,
100%?
The gentleman identified himself as Jim. He was very bloody, but at this point in time, we were on high alert because there's a potential of an active shooter in the surrounding areas.
I'm gonna pat you down real quick, all right? Just wanna make sure, all right? Take it easy, partner.
Hey, don't reach for nothing, brother.
In moments like this, we have 3 different people in 3 different places that all need police. Our training is to never make the scene too small to see the bigger picture.
Is this the Carhartt guy we're looking for?
This is the Carhartt guy, I believe, yes. He's behind the yellow house, yes. So he might be a victim.
Yeah, I'm the victim.
Jim was not armed. Jim had told us that to him everything was a blur, and he had no idea what had happened.
So he said it was a fast hitchhiker.
Situations like this, it makes it very difficult for detectives to figure out what took place when they're working with only a fraction of the information about what had taken place and why are 4 people's lives forever changed. What was big enough to make this happen? And still no answer to that question.
And after transporting Jim to the hospital, we called in the K9 unit. We were still looking for the 4th person and possibly the shooter from the car. At this time,
a K9's nose is much different than a human's nose and much more sensitive.
I don't know how the hell you didn't see it.
They are able to smell things and alert their handlers of what particular trail they're taking based on how they've been trained.
The K9 team was able to find a location starting point and track from that starting point to see if they could pick up a trail. At one point, they tracked to a trailer that was either occupied or unoccupied. When they did that, I was stuck on a perimeter point around the trailer to make sure that no one fled from that trailer while officers went in to search. During those situations, we have to be very vigilant and aware of our surroundings. The K9 team tracked to this location and trailer, but that accused could be anywhere in the surrounding areas. We always have to keep our head on a swivel and just stay very focused. That just added to the mystery.
Police K9, they want in here.
We take every step to preserve the life of our officers, and those dogs are trained to go into situations in order to grab on to that particular suspect or victims and give the officers an opportunity to go in there after the dog has engaged with that person.
It was empty, and it became extremely frustrating for us to deal with because now we're starting to lose the daylight, which makes everything much more difficult. While we were searching for this, someone came forward and said that the shooter possibly could have ran down the street.
Open door, right there.
You got open door here?
Looks like it's just an entryway though. Oh, a whole bunch of steps going through here. Hey, there's 2 people out in front of that store over there.
We had the K9 unit circle back to start up on a second track in a different direction.
See some down there, a little landing, a little human. See down there in the landing right there, a little bump out? I can't tell from here.
At some point, the K9 locked into a scent that led us straight to a man walking down the street. It was hard to decide if this person was the shooter or if they were a victim.
Stop right there! Put your hands up! Up! Both hands up!
We had to make a decision if this was the 4th person, the person we're looking for. Was it a victim? Was it a shooter? We had to deal with all that information at once.
You got him? Don't move. Weapons? You got ID on you?
Yes, sir.
Where's it at?
It's in situations like this, where you have multiple victims and a possible shooter we're still trying to locate, it puts immense pressure on the police department to take that person into custody.
Yeah, we have a female subject here. He's got a UFM, hit, winter cap on, black coat, sweatshirt underneath his hands black.
The man was not upset, he was not irate, he had no blood on him at all. But once we started to talk to the subject, he did tell us he was out for a walk, just came from his mother's house.
All right, you guys hear that? Where'd you just come from, sir? Okay, just get this information. All right, we apologize for this. We had a shooting in the area, okay? Yeah, no, you're good. Hey, my name is Sergeant Ford. I appreciate your cooperation, okay? If you have any questions, just go ahead and call our dispatch center and ask for Sergeant Ford, okay? Absolutely. All right, yeah, we're good with him. Let's get his info.
He was just a likable guy who was really a victim of circumstance.
Okay. I don't want to touch my pocket. Once the officers are done with you, you're good to go, okay? Which pocket is it? I don't want to touch nothing.
You're good, man. We've patted you down. You're good.
When we release someone from custody that we think may be an accused, we rule them out as a suspect. We do apologize to them. We also give them a business card with our information on it, as well as our supervisor's information. But we couldn't slow down at all. We had to move forward with the investigation and try to locate the suspect and the victim. As it became darker outside, it became more difficult for us to locate anything.
Right here, maybe? I don't know. So many damn tracks. Is there blood? Are you seeing blood?
We searched almost the entire mobile home park, as well as every outbuilding that we could find, just to clear the scene.
Did he go into one of these trailers? Shed's locked. From outside.
The amount of frustration we were feeling at that time, now that we kept getting different leads, and they kept ending up being not what we were looking for.
Watch your crossfire.
Then when we received a call, it changed everything.
The doctors advised us that one of our victims was on life support and was not gonna make it.
Now, this became a homicide investigation, and this mystery had taken a much darker turn. By now we had a few pieces of the puzzle getting put together. We knew that we had 3 people in the hospital, 2 in critical condition. Our ultimate goal now is to find that 4th person and to capture the shooter.
And then came the name of the victim who did not survive, Delano Hudson Jr.
I learned that Delano passed through a phone call. My mom reached out and let me know that he didn't make it. I know at the end of the day, God gives and he takes, and it's just like, why take that? Delano was a brother to me. I grew up with him just like I did my sisters. We were in the same household 9 times out of 10. He always liked to laugh and joke and play. Losing him to this day still rocks me to the core.
A little while later, we learned from the hospital that Jim was going to survive, and that Devon, who was the driver and had been shot in the head, was now awake and was going to survive. And he was able to talk to us.
We immediately spoke with Devon about who else he was with that day.
Hey, bud. You're doing good. You're doing a lot better than when I first saw you. I know it was you and Delano in the car, and then the old guy, right? Who was the last guy in the car, bud? If you don't want to tell me, just say you don't want to tell me. I'll leave you alone, buddy. It's okay, dude.
When I started to talk to Devon, it became clear that he was hesitant to provide information that had occurred, whether through fear or through personal knowledge of the fourth victim or the shooter. I wasn't sure. But at this point in time, he wasn't being forthcoming with information as I had hoped.
I think that the trauma of being shot, but also shot in the head, and then watching a person that you call your brother be shot next to you, knowing that that person is dead, that bears a lot on a person in order to sort out what to say next.
So after some initial hesitation, Devon did provide us with the name of the fourth person in the vehicle, and that was Kyon Wells. Devon had told me that early that day, they were going to the Lansing Mall where they were going to sell some cell phones. The idea was once those cell phones were sold, they were going to split the cash.
So after the group sold the cell phones and left the mall, they went toward Mill Pond Village to drop Kyon back off at where he had been staying. According to Devon, as he was driving, Kyon said he would just get out. That's when Devon heard the gunshot and knew that he had been shot in the head. He hit the gas, which is when he did strike the parked car, which pushed the car into the adjacent trailer home. He jumped out of the car immediately after hearing the first gunshot, and then he heard multiple more gunshots as he was running away. It looked like a robbery-related crime gone wrong.
At that time, Devon had no idea where Kyon was at. After speaking to Devon, we turned our attention to the other surviving victim, Jim. We wanted to see if his version of events would line up to Devon's to make sure their statements were cohesive.
So, everybody was talking, so.
Everybody in the car was talking?
Yeah, friends,
Who called 911?
I don't know.
You didn't call, though?
No.
Why'd you run?
Huh?
Why'd you run?
To get away from him.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
When we spoke to Jim, he essentially was able to corroborate Devon's statement about what had occurred.
We didn't have a clear motive about what had taken place, so figuring out what happened and why was very difficult. There was still an unknown accused in the situation.
Family and friends had spread word that Delano had passed away and that Devon and Jim are both going to survive. We had several family members that went up to the hospital, and emotions were running very high. It was an active investigation, which understandably became frustrating for some of the family members.
So I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told everyone else. Security says people are starting to get out of line.
There's no right way to handle the stress of that moment, and of course people are emotional. People who were very angry and very upset and very hurt.
You gotta remember that everybody is going through something. We're all grieving in some way. Delano was a huge loss to everyone. So it's not just you. Don't think you have to go and hide in a corner and say, I have to do this by myself. We're here. We love all of our family.
I'm trying to prevent you guys. You guys have been through enough. I don't want to see them make, because they'll make you leave. That's what I'm saying. So it's just a courtesy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, this is a pretty common occurrence when family members do show up to the hospital. They can become very emotional. We still have a job to do, and when someone does pass away as a homicide victim, we become their advocates for them.
It is certainly a possibility anytime a homicide takes place that perhaps the accused person in the event is not finished. We put precautions in place for that. When Kyon Wells was identified as the other person that was in the car, we were concerned. He was injured pretty severely. So we started to gather information about who he was, who his family was, where they lived, who are his associates, where may he be. That was a high priority for us.
We knew that the group in the car were in the process of selling phones. We believed that the sale of those cell phones may have been a result of this particular robbery and shooting. That was a big lead for us, and that's what we focused on. Next, I made contact with the mall security because they had a pretty decent security surveillance system. And I was able to obtain video footage, but we could not imagine what we saw when we looked at the footage. We knew that there were 2 cell phones involved in the transaction, so that was our main focus, is try to find out who actually provided those cell phones. Typically, we run the surveillance footage back out into the parking lot to determine what kind of vehicle that subject came from, and when they actually walked into the main area, and then when they walked back out.
Looking at video footage from the mall, it was nearly impossible to see the person they met to actually purchase the cell phones from beyond clothing descriptions. You could tell one person was a darker complected person and one person appeared to be white. You could tell the color of their clothing. You could not make a face out enough to know if it was your mom even. it was very difficult to see who that person was.
There's a possibility that they could have been hiding from the cameras. We were not able to track who actually bought those cell phones. So we shifted focus to the one person that would still have the answers to our investigation.
In looking at social media accounts and cell phone records after the fact, we learned that Kyon had a previous girlfriend who was carrying a baby with him, and we spoke with her.
You're welcome. My name's Martha.
My name's Tunzi.
Hi.
So my question is, you have no idea who he would have been meeting up with or okay.
I think that he might have more information as to who they were with or what they were doing, because honestly, I said I have not talked about it all day today. This is the first time that I came here and even knew about any of this.
She was cooperative, but in the sense that she felt she needed to be cooperative, but didn't necessarily want to be cooperative. She was very surprised that the police had associated her with Kyon so quickly.
So it's not like this is just something that and he's not in the streets. He does not have like beef or issues with anybody out here. So I honestly, this is all like completely shocking that this is even something that we're dealing with.
And where does...
I know he lives here in Lansing.
He is in the Lansing area?
Mm-hmm.
There were definitely questions as far as, did she have the motivation, did she have the means to help him get out of this area? Because if most of the resources of Lansing Police Department are looking for you, and you're still in the area, we have a really good idea of where you are.
And she did allow us to search her apartment at that particular time. We did not find any signs of him.
Thank you so much.
He was definitely on the run after this incident occurred, and our main objective was to secure and provide protection for him.
It was frustrating because as soon as we were able to find a lead of where now to look, it disappeared.
We unfortunately run into this situation where there's not a lot of movement in the case, and sometimes it can stall, but we're pretty vigilant. And nearly a month after Delano Hudson Jr.'s murder, we had a break in the case.
A man came into the Lansing Police Department. He was definitely apprehensive to talk with us, and he had information for us. We learned that he saw Delano the same day as the homicide.
You are not a suspect. You are a witness in this investigation. You're free to leave at any time. All right, you understand that? Okay. So, just wanted to clarify that, all right? My understanding is that you knew the victim?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with the photo. What was he wearing?
He was wearing some sweats, some black sweats. You know, Nike or something like that.
Did you see the Nike symbol, or how did you know?
Yeah, I saw the Nike symbol.
Well, once we started to talk to the subject, there was a bombshell that was dropped.
The particulars of the cell phones that they sold at the mall came to light. He had paid for the cell phones, and he paid Kyon at the mall. I believed much of what he was saying to be true because at that point he had mentioned other people by name who I knew were close to Devon and Delano, and I didn't think that he would lie based on knowing and being close with some of the same people.
Let's talk about Delano. How do you know Delano?
Yeah, buddy.
So you guys had a pretty decent friendship?
Yeah.
He did tell me at the time of our interview that he believed Kyon fired into the car and it didn't shock him because Kyon wanted the money.
We're probably gonna end up talking to you again at some point. I appreciate you coming down. So this is your time right now to tell us if there's anything that you missed in reference to this investigation that you would like to add, you know?
At first, I felt like he wasn't providing all of the details he may have known at the time. And then before we were finished talking, I feel like he absolutely gave us all of the information that he knew. At this point, Kyon Wells went from victim to suspect. And there was an all-out race to locate him, given his clear disregard for others. He was willing to kill a human over a cell phone and injure people that were close to him.
We entered the suspect's information into the national database, and in return, it was broadcasted throughout our city. Then we made an alert, put out to the media that Kyon was considered armed and dangerous.
police tell me the fourth person in the car is still missing. They're calling him a person of interest.
Take a good look at this man. Lansing police are trying to track him down. 20-year-old Kyon Wells is wanted for the death of Delano Hudson. 2 other people were hurt by the gunfire.
The public helps us quite a bit. Most folks here want to help us. Most folks here are great people, and we want to get these people off the street as soon as possible. So a lot of times that can aid our investigation.
So every lead was followed up on, but one lead changed everything. We had received an anonymous call that Mr. Wells could have been in Gulfport, Mississippi.
And once it was determined that he had likely fled the state of Michigan to Gulfport, the shift kind of went from the state police fugitive team looking for him.
That's going to be where you're going to have the U.S. Marshal Service involved because they're used to doing that throughout the country.
It's kind of when the investigation into locating Kyon actually took off. It certainly was unfathomable to even speculate what happens next. Once the fugitive team recognized that Kyon had fled the state of Michigan, they reached out to the U.S. Marshals. And then very soon after, they found him in Gulfport, Mississippi. Kyon was arrested without incident. After several weeks on the run, Kyon Wells was in police custody, and all of the information was released to the media.
A man has been arrested for the murder at Mill Pond Mobile Home Park in South Lansing. Kyon Wells was taken into custody in Gulfport, Mississippi by U.S. Marshals and local police. He's wanted in connection with the shooting death of 24-year-old Delano Hudson on March 1st.
I don't like to say it was like a pat on the back because that feels callous, but it was definitely like I had done my job and got to the point that the person who perpetrated this crime was at least in custody. Not that that's the end of the road, but it's certainly the beginning of a family getting a little bit of justice for their family member. Once Kyon Wells was back in the Lansing area, he was interviewed.
When you have suspects that have been on the run for a long time and they're a little cocky and brass, you have to approach them in a way that's firm, but yet you need to solicit information.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, come on. So we work for Lansing PD, okay? Just gonna get a couple quick bits of information from you real quick, and then we'll talk about some stuff, okay? Can you spell your first name for me?
B-O-N.
And your last name?
Welsh, as in like Fargo, like Welsh Fargo.
And then we're gonna go easy into whatever we're doing. We want to put them in the place that the crime occurred and then go from there.
So obviously we want to talk to you about some stuff that happened before you got here, okay? You're in custody, clearly. You've still got the belly chain on.
Once we began a conversation, it was obvious that Kyon didn't want to talk to me. He was abrasive in every answer. He was short in the very limited information he did share. He challenged everything that was said to him in that interview. Things as simple as, where do you live? What is your birth date? Were met with nothing but attitude.
That's what I'm saying. How am I getting charged with something?
I'm telling you, you've been formally charged with homicide. You are currently in this jail because you have been formally charged with homicide.
When you have combative suspects, you just have to go hard. And then you just have to hope that you can break through. That's a big win.
How am I formally being charged with something?
Well, you'll be formally arraigned within the next couple of days.
How can you be charged with something? Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there any evidence that puts me on the crime scene? Is there any evidence that puts me
I'm not going to sit here and give you all of our evidence and all of the things that we know are true, but I can answer your question. Yes, there is reason to believe that you were there that day.
That's reason to believe.
Kyon never changed his facial expressions. He never showed any emotion outside of anger. He never appeared to be remorseful in anything that's taken place. Throughout my time as a detective, specifically being a homicide detective, I often question humanity. And in moments like this, there's no good reason. There's no why. There's nothing that makes sense as to why this incident took place. It just doesn't make sense. Shot all 3 of these people over greed and a few $100s worth of cell phones. We were able to obtain his DNA pursuant to the search warrant, and it was confirmed that Kyon Wells' DNA was within the car. But no gun was ever located. I imagine that the gun quickly disappeared shortly after the homicide took place. On November 21st of 2021, Kyon Wells pled guilty to second-degree murder, the killing of Delano Hudson Jr. Kyon Wells was sentenced to 28.5 years in prison as a minimum and 64 years as the maximum sentence for this crime. For me, this case was a challenge because Delano Hudson looked so similar to one of my family members, a person I love. It was a challenge for me to separate that at times. I easily could see my own family in those situations just based on the emotional trauma they were dealing with.
What do I miss most about Delano? Everything. I miss his smile. I miss his laughter. I miss how he looks like my grandmother. Like, if you seen them two together, you would think they were literally twins. Same eyes, same nose, everything. Like, I miss everything about him. He was an amazing person, and being able to know him and being able to see him grow from birth was nothing short than special. Delano Hudson Jr., you are missed, you are loved, and I wish you could be here with us today.
The truth finally surfaced from chaos and silence. What began as confusion in a shattered car ended in cold clarity, betrayal, greed, and a life stolen for a handful of cash. The jury didn't just hear evidence, they heard the final echo of Delano's voice. And with that, the verdict was sealed, justice, at last, for a life that should never have been taken.